Hello my dear students. Today we are going to learn autobiography of Albert Einstein, and this text has been extracted from the biography of Albert Einstein, which is written by Patrick Pringle, and this story is included in the Einstein Young Einstein. Okay, so let's see who is Albert Einstein. Even though he does not require any introduction, but it is imperative to discuss about his success and his early life before we discuss about his personality in the school and in later life. Albert Einstein was born on 14th March 1879 and died on 18th April 1955. He was a German-born theoretical physicist who developed the theory of relativity, one of the two pillars of modern physics alongside quantum mechanics. His work is also known for its influence on the philosophy of science. He is best known to the general public for his mass energy equivalence formula, that is E is equals to mc square, which has been regarded the world's most famous equation. He received the 1921 Nobel Prize in Physics for his services to theoretical physics and especially for his discovery of the law of photoelectric effect. It was a pivotal step in the development of quantum theory. Einstein is known for all these achievements, but he was not very intelligent according to few of the teachers when he was in the school. Let's find out few more details about Albert Einstein and then we will move towards the theme of the story. He was the son of a salesman who later operated an electrochemical factory. Einstein was born in the German Empire, who moved to Switzerland in 1895. Specializing in physics and mathematics, he received his academic teaching diploma from the Swiss Federal Polytechnic School in Zurich in 1900. The following year, he acquired Swiss citizenship, which he kept for his entire life. After initially struggling to find work from 1902 to 1909, he was employed as a patent examiner at the Swiss Patent Office in Bern. Einstein always excelled at math and physics from a young age. At 12 years old, the 12-year-old Albert Einstein taught himself algebra and Euclidean geometry over a single summer. So here we get to see the dull boy, as he was regarded in the school, had achieved great heights in his later life. So what was the reason for being a dull boy, or it was a farce? Let's find out. Let's discuss theme of the story. The first point that is the theme of the story is that the school education system curbs individual talent. Students, even today in most of the countries of the world, the education system has remained rigid and conservative. Each school evolves a system in which every student is expected to try to fit in. Even teachers are expected to blindly follow the system. Here, teachers are made just like a puppet in order to make them fit in the education system. Even some of the teachers might want to try to introduce few practical things, but they are stopped because of this rigid system. No deviation is tolerated or encouraged if teachers wants to do so. Individual talents are often curbed, and that is very much true. A student who wants to study science is forced to learn facts of history. Therefore, Einstein finds it very difficult to adjust in this school. So it is true that school education system curbs individual talent. It does not encourage original thinking and insight formation. This is also very much correct because insight formation requires a cool and objective analysis of the given facts. It leads us to new conclusions, discoveries, and inventions. And no wonder, here in the story, Albert Einstein, a person who disliked rote learning, through insight formation, if teachers give emphasis on insight formation, then they will be readying students for life. It is not only about earning money, but about leading a happy and peaceful life, adjusting with the present. And this can be possible through insight formation, taking right decision at right time. It promotes rote learning. In the story, we find German schools promoting rote learning, and it is not only limited to Germany but throughout the world, as I told you when I discussed point number 1, that it is throughout the world. We find rote learning being practiced and promoted, but this is totally wrong. Because of that, we are creating literate people but not educated one. I hope it's clear. Theme is clear to everyone. Let's move towards the introduction to the text now. This text is extracted from The Young Einstein. This is biography of Albert Einstein, which is written by well-known biographer Patrick Pringle. And it talks about education system at present, which is curving individual thinking. And this is extremely applicable to our present scenario of education even in India, though the story is from Germany. If one questions its utility, one is castigated and punished. The syllabus which is included in the system, if any of the student asks about its utility, they are either scolded or reprimanded by the teachers, or they are expelled from the school. So because of this, the system has not been able to improve yet. But we are fortunate that recent changes have occurred in a positive way, like new education system. We will discuss about it later. Albert Einstein, one of the greatest scientists of our times, was a rebel. He was expelled from a German school because he had the nasty habit of putting uncomfortable questions to his teachers and of ignoring the learning of things by heart. Albert Einstein, who was practical minded, self confident, and rational thinker, he did not like the present system of rote learning, and therefore he rebelled. He had a healthy he wanted to have a healthy debate on education system, but history teacher, that is Mr. Brown, took it otherwise and misunderstood Albert Einstein to be rude and impolite. This account of Albert Einstein's school days is a commentary on the system of education prevailing in Germany at that time. Here in the story we find Albert Einstein was sent to a Munich school to get a diploma. About that time, Germany had a rigid conventional system of education. Students and teachers were expected to follow the rigid syllabus smoothly. There was no room for original thinking and individual talent. Rote learning was emphasized in school. So let's see in the story what happens to Albert Einstein, who did not want to opt the present system of rote learning. Before we move towards the story, let me ask you two questions. What should be the purpose of education? Is it committing into the memory and vomiting into the paper? Or is it something else? Or is it information gathering or insight formation? Here, is it enough to gather information and keep it in our mind? Or we should be able to analyze each and every situation, why the situation has occurred and how it can be, if it is awful, then how it can be isolated or it can be avoided. All right, so these two questions are there for you, both all of you, so please work on it we will move towards the story now. Let's move towards the characters in the story. First protagonist is Albert Einstein, of course. Albert Einstein is straightforward, practical, and self confident. Not only that, he was very polite, but he was misunderstood by the teachers. He was very intelligent, but his intelligence was not seen by other teachers except Mr. Koch, who was his math teacher. Albert Einstein had few friends, because of which he was able to adapt in that horrible atmosphere in Munich. Albert Einstein wanted practical education, and he wanted to learn science and mathematics rather than history. He considered ideas matters but not the facts, which cannot be changed. Rather than rather than this, he was interested in learning the reason behind the wars and why these two members of the enemies were fighting among each other. So it was very brilliant thought of Albert Einstein, but he was misunderstood by entire school faculty members. Mr. Brown is another character. He is a history teacher. Mr. Brown is insensitive, and he does not have any psychological knowledge for his student. He is so rude in dealing with the student, because of which he misunderstands Albert Einstein when he tries to define the purpose of education in individual's life. Next is Mr. Koch. Mr. Koch is mathematics teacher and who talks high about Albert Einstein. And here we get to see that it was only in mathematics that Albert Einstein received good marks. It is because he had great bonding with Mr. Koch because of the work that he completed on time of Mr. Koch. Not only that, the homework that was given to Albert Einstein by this teacher, he used to complete it within time or earlier than that. So his excellent nature was known to Mr. Koch, and therefore when he left the school, he was given a high referral by Mr. Koch. Next is Yuri. Because of this best friend, he survived in Munich for those years. It was Yuri who was true friend and who was beside him in each and every trouble that was caused to Albert Einstein because of school and because of his residential area violence. It was Yuri who played instrumental role in providing a certificate to Albert Einstein to go away from the school. And he was wise enough to suggest him to get a certificate from Mr. Koch for his good work. Next is Ernst Weil, who is a doctor. Ernst Weil was suggested by Yuri to give certificate to Albert Einstein, and after understanding the condition of Albert Einstein, even he became aware with the situation and he cooperated with Einstein. Next is Elsa. Elsa is also another friend and cousin of Albert Einstein. She wanted to help Albert Einstein at any cost. Therefore, she suggested that in order to get diploma, which is required by Albert Einstein's father for his son, so in order to get that diploma, Albert Einstein can mug up things and write in the examination and get a certificate, and then only he will be able to leave this place. But this idea of Elsa did not work, as Albert Einstein was not able to mug up or memorize things by heart. So even she proved to be a very true friend because she knew Albert Einstein and his problems very well and tried to solve it from her perspective. Let's begin with the summary of the story now. The lesson begins with little Albert's encounter with his history teacher, Mr. Brown, where the teacher is asking him about a particular date from the past, but as usual, little Albert does not know the answer. This moment leads us to a little speech given by Albert Einstein in the class about what education should include and what they are being taught is irrelevant. So here we find Albert, who never bothered to learn the things taught to him by the history teacher, was been asked a question. He told the teacher that he did not believe in learning facts. He said he was interested not in learning the dates of battles, but in learning why the soldiers were trying to kill each other. This history teacher, because of his fearless answer, got offended and he considers his attitude to be very careless. He asked him to leave the school if he had no faith in the education system. So here, Albert Einstein, who was very straightforward, was misunderstood because of his bold and fearless reply to his teacher. Because of such kind of situation, his complaint was made to the headmaster by almost every teacher except mathematics teacher, Mr. Koch. Albert's perspective towards education. Now, what Albert thought about education? Let's find out. Learning fact Learning facts in education is useless. The facts which cannot be changed is useless, but ideas are more important than facts. The ideas, as I have told you just now, the reason behind two soldiers two soldiers battle, that can be cured and that can be avoided, but not the fact, the battle which has already been taken place, which cannot be stopped, which we cannot change history, but the reason because of which they were fighting can be changed in upcoming days. Therefore, ideas are important than facts. Furthermore, reason of a war is crucial than its date and death casualties. Now here, another thing is that reason for war. Because of what reason both the parties were engaged in war, that is crucial, not the date when it had taken place. That is not important, not even the casualties that took place. But in future we can save these death casualties, then it is possible the through the through stopping the reason of the war. So for this he is interested and not in these kind of things. Therefore he was misunderstood by teachers, which was their fault. It ends up in him being punished by the teachers with which Albert is habituated. It was not a new thing. Albert Einstein was castigated, reprimanded by his teachers, and it was not a new thing. Then the lesson talks about how Albert disliked his neighborhood because of poor quarter, lack of comfort, slum violence, lack of law, bad food, unable to play violin. Now, this takes us to Albert's residence, and here Albert lived a miserable life. He did not mind the poor quality of food, but he was only troubled by the atmosphere of slum violence. The landlady beat her children regularly, and they used to howl, which stopped Albert Einstein from his work. On every Saturday, she was beaten by her drunkard husband. So he had no peace of mind there. Now, out there, he could not even play his violin as it irritated his landlady. So, because of this condition, he hated his residence at Munich. Albert even expresses his worries to his cousin Elsa from Berlin. She suggested Albert to memorize the lesson and write in examination. Now, this problem of Albert Einstein was discussed with his friend Yuri. Okay, and even Yuri said that his condition, his residence is not different from Albert Einstein's. It is because even he finds his area where there is no law and there is no rules and regulations, because recently in Yuri's locality some of the students killed another person and no punishment was given to them. Here Elsa had arrived, and she tries to help him out by saying that memorize the lesson and write it in the examination, get the certificate, get the diploma, and come back to your father's place. But that was not easy, because memorizing, that is rote learning, was not Albert Einstein's cup of tea. It was Achilles' heel, it was weakness of Albert Einstein. She thought he was a dull boy, but her perspective changed when she found him reading geology, which was not in the school syllabus. She also got to understand that he was not a child who was a dull student, okay, because his interest was there in reading books. But why not he is able to learn the chapters of his school syllabus? There lies the question. And he said that these are practical subjects but not history and some other. Therefore, geology is important and interesting for him, but not any other subjects. And music and mathematics were few more subjects where his expertise lies and interest as well. His mental condition was deteriorating rapidly when he thought about going to school. At this point, Albert starts strategizing his way to get out of the school. Now his condition had become so much deteriorating, he could not take it anymore. He could not hold it, tolerate it anymore. Therefore, he started making plan to get out of the school. And it is said that necessity is the mother of all inventions. In the same way, Albert Einstein got the help of Yuri and found out the plan to get rid of his miserable school. He suddenly decided to involve a doctor to get rid of this Munich school. He wanted to take help from the doctor who will write a certificate about his nervous breakdown, and he will be away from the school for 6 months at least. But even after that, he did not plan to go back to the school. He wanted the doctor to know that he had a nervous breakdown, who will prescribe that the root cause of it is a school, and he shall stay as far away from it as he could. This is where Yuri agrees and sets up an appointment with his friend, a freshly qualified doctor who he wants is highly hard to be fooled. One once is hard to be fooled. Now here, the plan was made by Albert Einstein with Yuri, okay, and Yuri also helps him because he knew that if he will not help in generating a certificate through some doctor, then he is going to have real nervous breakdown. Because of their friendship, he had to do it. And we need to understand that Yuri knew each and every ups and downs of Albert Einstein's life. He managed someone who was his own acquaintance, and then appointment was fixed. Albert thinks about his conversation with the doctor so much that at this point he is actually nervous. Here, Albert Einstein what Albert Einstein had to pretend as if he was really having a nervous breakdown. Therefore, in order to therefore in overthinking, he had really become nervous. Albert wanted a certificate at any cost, and when he went to the doctor to get the fake certificate, he became really nervous as he was too honest to pretend nervousness. On meeting the doctor, he comes to know that Yuri has already told him everything and the doctor is ready to help him. Being a true friend, Yuri, prior to the meeting, told everything to the doctor, and doctor, being empathetic, understood the problem of Albert Einstein, and he was ready to generate a certificate for Albert Einstein. The doctor understands how tiring school can be, asks Albert his plans after he gets out of school, and realizes he is doing no good to him or anyone by staying there. Doctor, after interaction with Albert Einstein, understood that he has different field to join. Like he wanted to excel in mathematics. For this, he knew that mathematics teacher is going to generate a good referral certificate for him, and he wanted to join some college to study mathematics further, and he was sure that his teacher is going to help him out. And when he said these things to the doctor, he understood that out here he is wasting his time, because except mathematics, almost all the teachers misunderstood Albert Einstein, and he was not regarded as a student. He was not able to ask any questions. So, because of this fake personality, Albert Einstein did not want to continue in the school. Thus, he hands him his medical certificate and in turn asks him to take Yuri out for a meal. Although excited Albert had no money to spare, he took Yuri out for supper. Pretense here. Albert Einstein's work was done, and uh, in for fees, when he asked for the fees of the doctor, he said that Yuri is a very good friend of yours, so you should give treat to Yuri rather than paying him the fees. And he pretends that Yuri was taken for a treat by him. He is next seen with Mr. Koch, math teacher. In the entire faculty members, it is only Mr. Koch who could access his caliber genuinely. Now here Albert Einstein was happy in only one class where he thinks that he is not wasting his time. That is Mr. Koch class, which was of mathematics. And here he genuinely learned. He was a student out here and not in other classes, who had already thought that his brilliant math student is going to leave soon, as the school syllabus was not according to the requirement of Albert's mental ability. Mr. Koch was a very good teacher. He could read out the psychology of a student, and he knew that the syllabus which is prescribed by the school is not enough for Albert Einstein. His mental ability is so high that he will be able to join college right then. Therefore, he cooperated and generated a referral certificate to him, talking high about his performance in mathematics classes, and this is going to help in getting into a college. Einstein had studied all the math they teach in school and even some more. He is then summoned to the headmaster's room, where he is told to walk away, as hardly any serious work can be accomplished when he is around. Now, here, the headmaster, the head teacher, summoned Albert to tell him that he had decided to punish him for his extremely bad performance. He wanted him to leave the school of his own accord, otherwise, he would be expelled. The headmaster was so much rude, who did not have faith in his students, and he accepted the words of the teachers very bluntly. He said that he had refused to learn and that he was in constant rebellion with the teachers. In fact, he wanted to say that the school did not like his habit of too much questioning and his refusal to go with the established system. Now, here, Albert wanted to say what he thought of his school, because according to Albert Einstein, the school was not fit for the students. So here he did not want to say anything because he was in happy mood as he had received the certificate, but even though that was not used for getting away from the school, but he was happy out there, and with his head high he left the school. He said goodbye to his only friend Yuri, and Elsa was back in Berlin by that time. At last, Albert was out of the school. Now, here we find Yuri was the only person whom he said goodbye, because he was there with him throughout his ups and downs in Munich. And Elsa was back to Berlin by that time. So finally he was out of the school, and it was loss of the school and not of Albert Einstein. Why? We will understand now after completing the text. We know, students, Albert Einstein was fond of science and music. He knew how to play violin. He was an alert and curious young man. It was his extraordinary alertness and curiosity which made him later a great scientist. So, right from the childhood, after leaving this school, let's find out his achievements. The 12-year-old Einstein taught himself algebra and Euclidean geometry over a single summer. Now here we will see ability of Albert Einstein, the very child who was considered dull and careless, achieving heights in other schools. Einstein also independently discovered his own original proof of the Pythagorean theorem at age 12. A family tutor, Max Talmud, says that after he had given the 12-year-old Einstein a geometry textbook, after a short time Einstein had worked through the whole book. At age 13, when he had become more seriously interested in philosophy and music, Einstein was introduced to Kant's Critique of Pure Reason, and Kant became his favorite philosopher, his tutor, stating, at the time he was still a child, only 13-year-old, yet Kant's works, incomprehensible to ordinary mortals, seemed to be clear to him. So, how come a student who was regarded as dull and careless was so much praised by these many peoples in his childhood itself? So, there is something wrong with the system itself and not to this child. Let's talk about his later achievements. He received the 1921 Nobel Prize in Physics for his service to theoretical physics, and especially for his discovery of the law of photoelectric effect, a pivotal step in the development of quantum theory. At the age of 26, he was awarded a PhD by University of Zurich. Einstein was affiliated with the Institute of Advanced Study in Princeton, New Jersey until his death in 1955. He published more than 300 scientific papers and more than 150 non scientific works. His intellectual achievements and originality have made the word Einstein synonymous with genius, and this is very much known to everyone. Apart from these students, we find other achievements as well, like his mind. Okay, the brain of Albert Einstein is kept for research work. Why? He was so much intelligent, and it is said that he used only 1/10 of his brain, and after using that, he was such a successful scientist. So imagine about other normal being. They don't utilize their brain at all if we consider this. So we need to use our capabilities to the fullest, just like Albert Einstein. So by this we have completed the story Albert Einstein, and we got to know very definition of education, and there are people who should change perspective towards education and break the bondage within which they are pent up. So, by this, we will end our video. I hope everything is clear to you all. Thank you, students. We will meet in our next video.